Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today on Tuesday, the 6th of October. It's Tuesday. My name's Hannah. I'm the UK casting specialist at Backstage, and this is part of our digital slate of content, which is conversations with actors and casting directors and all manners of filmmakers, talking about the casting process and equipping us with a bit more information on how to do our jobs better or get ourselves more opportunities in acting. So today I'm joined by Jessica Straker. Hi, Jessica.
Hey.
Oh, I'm just going to actually change it to gallery view. I keep forgetting to do that. Okay, there we go. So we're joined by Jessica, who I'm sure you've read if you've signed up to this, which is why you're here. She's casting director. She was the casting associate on Rocks, the Sarah Gavron film, which has just come out on Netflix and has been in cinemas the last couple of weeks. She is also casting, she worked in casting on Small Acts, which is Steve McQueen's project, and she's now working as casting director on a really great project with Channel 4 and Film 4 and BFI. Is that right? Yeah.
Channel 4.
Oh, Channel 4, it is Channel 4 and the BFI. So she's got a really good experience with a lot of different projects, and the reason why I contacted Jessica was because I am absolutely obsessed with the film Rocks. Literally anybody who will listen to me, I'm talking about this film right now. So if you haven't watched it, please get on it, because it's on Netflix right now. It's still in a few cinemas, like for Everyman and things like that. And I'll let Jessica explain a bit more about the project, but it's incredible and really well cast, like intimidatingly well. So we'll speak about Rocks. We're going to speak about Jessica's career overall and what she's learned over her different projects. Rocks, the casting process for that. We're going to talk about street casting. So filmmakers who are watching, we're going to talk about how you can draw a performance out of an actor or a non-actor in whatever case, how to make people feel comfortable in the room and inspire something, to workshop something when you're together. And then we're going to talk about Aftercare for actors, which is also why I wanted to get Jessica on, because she's founded an organization alongside a couple of other filmmakers called Bridge, which is looking after actors after they've booked their first job, their breakout role, and looking after them to make sure that they can navigate the film industry afterwards, because it can be very, very daunting. And if you're a new young actor or a new old actor, it's really difficult sometimes to bridge that gap between that first performance and moving it into a full-time career. So we're going to speak about that, and we're also going to speak about COVID and how that's been affecting Jessica's work at the moment, which just obviously comes up in conversation all the time. A few things. So this is recorded. So if you do want to come back to this at any point, then you will be able to. It'll be on our YouTube channel, which is Backstage, if you search us on YouTube. Follow us on Instagram and Twitter, and please do let us know on there if you've enjoyed the session. We are at Backstage on Twitter and at Backstage Cast on Instagram. I am at Hannah Castin on Twitter. Jessica, what's your Twitter handle?
Mine is Jessica Straker, which is spelled Straker on Twitter. And Bridge is We Are Bridge UK on Twitter, Instagram. I saw someone in chat looking for it.
Wicked. So give those a follow, comment and send us tweets and things like that if you are enjoying watching along. There is a Q&A box, guys. I can see a lot of you saying hi in the chat box. Thank you so much. I'm going to try and be, oh, whoa, you guys are from all over. New York, Australia, South Africa. Wow. Cool.
Hello, everyone.
Denmark. This is cool.
Orchestra. Love it.
Amazing. Well, please pop in where you're from. Venezuela. Whoa. Okay. Italy. Okay. I'm going to stop reading that. So pop in your hellos, and also if you want to ask a question, I would love to see them in the Q&A box, and I will get to those at the end. Thank you so much, everyone, for engaging already. So let's get going. Jessica, could you tell us a bit about how you got into casting and what you were doing before you got into casting?
Yeah, so I sort of stumbled into it, sort of sidestepped into it, slightly by accident, but it just seemed to, once I was there, it seemed to sort of incorporate every skill set I'd sort of picked up along the way. So that was in 2017. Prior to that, I was working in advertising, and sort of social media marketing, direct marketing stuff. And I didn't really like it, to be honest. Like, I was drawn to the idea of being creative and creating something within the limits of like a brief. But then I got there and it just didn't feel like the right fit. And yeah, social media is like, it's a great beast, but it's also a very I think, yeah, just going, when I was working in it, I was so close to the void of it. I was just like, oh, it just lost all of its shimmer and sheen. So I don't really use it that much anymore. But yeah, so I was doing that bit of web design and stuff, which I still do. And then yeah, I met Anu Enriquez, who was the associate director on Rocks. She also works as a production assistant at Fable Pictures, which was the production company. And so I just met her at a talk event randomly, didn't know what she did. We had a little nice chat on the way home, Facebook, all of that. And then a few months later, she was just posted that someone she was working with, who turned out to be Lucy Pardy, who was the casting director on Rocks, needed some help just with some Excel spreadsheets, which is my forte. And yeah, so I was just like, I need a little bit more cash. I'm freelance. And yeah, just walked in, and what was supposed to be 3 days just turned into a complete pivot, which I think me and Lucy bonded over. I think a bee had just landed on her and she was really wild, and I was like, I love spreadsheets, and we just sort of yeah, we're a very like chaotic whirlwind, but we work so well together.
I feel like most people that I've worked with in casting are some form of chaotic whirlwind, so that makes total sense. Okay, cool. So so at the time then, you were still, you know, working freelance in that other area. At what point did you think, oh no, I'm gonna actually pursue this full time?
I think it sort of took off straight away, because I joined, so they had a little bit of research stage. So Sarah Gavron, the director, sort of came towards Lucy early on, because to sort of do sort of research. So they were in schools for about a year prior to me joining for the proper casting at that point. So it was quite full on. So it started running. So I just sort of ran into like, oh, okay, well, this is this is a career now. So yeah, that was quite full time on there. And yeah, so I've just been very lucky and grateful in terms. There has been like bumps and stuff, like every freelance life will have that rickety part until you can get to that sort of stability. So and I was also doing a uni course at my master's at the same time, so that helped, because I had a little bit of funding from government funding, wasn't that much, but I have to pay it back at some point.
So what was your MA in?
Creative writing. So yeah, so I was doing that alongside Rock. So yeah, it sort of helped balance things a bit.
Amazing. So so tell us about Rocks then. So you mentioned that they were in schools for a year before the point you came on board. Explain to us the premise of the process for the way that they created Rocks.
Yeah. It was an unusual process. So there wasn't a treatment usually. Once it's got funding and all of that, there's a treatment, and you sort of send that around to actors, and you have like a script written. But it was much more about it being collaborative, and it being this buildable sort of story where everything influenced it as it moved on. So the writers, Claire Wilson and Teresa Coco, were sort of developing it alongside us casting and finding these actors, which is quite unusual. Usually in casting, you have script, you have the content, and then off you go and find the people that fit into those characters. So it had this strange element from the start where it was a lot of breathing space, but then also a lot of just unknown of like where it could go and what it could lead to. So yeah, they were in a few schools initially, just sort of just getting the vibe. One of those schools actually was Bookie Bakre, who plays the lead character, Shola Rox. It was they were in her school for a year as well. And then we sort of went into about 15 schools in North and East London, and just did an open casting where just did an assembly where you just sort of said whoever wants to come forward can come forward, and we made sure that everyone who stepped forward would get an audition, which was absolute chaos and a very big Excel spreadsheet. Like we were seeing like 200 kids a weekend. Yeah, it was a lot for a long time. That took over the course of a year. I think in total we saw about 1,500 young people, and whittled that down slowly through the process to this a workshopping group of about maybe 20 or just shy of 20, and then it slowly formed into the main cast, which you see in the final form.
Wow.
So, yeah.
So when Sarah Gavron was working in the schools before the official casting process, when you came on board, was that part of like a research? Like, what were they doing in that initial stage? Were they looking to like actually see what young girls are like right now? So they had a point of reference.
Yeah, because I think the idea was, I think a lot of filmmakers, when you're wanting to write about childhood, it's inherent that we'll sort of pick from our own place, and from the start it was like, let's tell a story of childhood and like teenage life today, and so that took looking into what is actually happening, let's have just a vibe of what could be going on, and just I think just on any different level, I think just immersing yourself in the space that you intend to sort of inhabit on a multitude of levels will be helpful. So yeah, there was all sorts of just different things. It was speaking to people, just general researching in terms of creating documents that then could validate what we were doing to agents and to financiers and also help inspire, like as we're getting the crew together, like we don't have a script, but this is basically what we're doing. This is like, these are the sort of stories. We've interviewed young people, we've got pictures, we've got things like that. So it was sort of creating just the starting point of it.
And then so with that then, how did the actual storyline come to be solidified? Because it's such a strong, like you can imagine that potentially, because there's all these different voices in this melting pot, that it might end up becoming just like a atmospheric piece rather than having like a really strong storyline where we follow one person, because there's so many interesting elements going on. So how was that decision made? Like, was that any personal experiences from any of the girls that informed that storyline?
No, it wasn't any personal experiences. Teresa Coco, who came up with the story, the final story that took place in Rox, she has a previous background working in sort of young offenders and like the prison system with young people, and sort of helping facilitate them and stuff. So she was doing that beforehand. And so I think it was just being an awareness of there are stories like this being told. And initially this story was, as she puts it, a love letter to her sister that she had been working on separately. So we had been sort of forming something before that, and then as we met, like as we sort of like got further into the workshopping and we met the girls and started to form connections with them, I think then Teresa sort of came to the team and was like, what about this? I've been thinking of it for just myself and my sister, but like actually we could incorporate it into this, and I trust these young people to actually pull it off, which they did fantastically.
Oh my gosh, it's unreal. Oh God, okay, I have so many questions. The little boy, where did you find him? Was he in a school as well? Because that is the most, like my boyfriend doesn't work in casting, he works in film, he doesn't work in casting, but he came out and he was like, that was unreal. Like, how did they get him to do all of those things? So where did you find him? What was the process to find him?
So D'Angelo, it wasn't as big a sweep, it was much more concentrated. So at the end of the year of like finding the main cast, we did like a social media sweep, which then obviously old tricks coming back into the news space.
Oh, yeah.
So we did a sweep looking for a little brother, and then we did go into a few schools. So we did actually find him twice, randomly. His mum put him forward through the social media search, and then by chance I walked into a school and like saw him, and he was like, I know you. I was like, I know you as well. But yeah, we saw about 500 little boys for that over the space of like 2 weekends, which was intense, but wow. It was
okay. Somebody's just joined and they've just said which production we're talking about Rocks, a Sarah Gavron film. My question to you then is, when you're auditioning like such a massive when you're auditioning such a massive group of people over a short period of time, what is that process? If you're a filmmaker and you're going to be seeing a ton of people because you need to get a load, like they're non-actors, they haven't got experience, how do you very quickly assess whether or not someone's right or not? Like, what were you auditioning them with?
Well, yeah, it's strange because like just as he was saying that, I was like, that situation probably won't happen for a long time now because of the situations we're in, like seeing so many like just people coming in and out every hour. But in terms of sort of some takeaways that can be sort of transferred to any situation, not just young people, but it just takes a little more time. So if you're a trained actor, or you're just more in the industry and understand the industry a bit more, there is certain things that you will understand, you will get. So it's having to explain what Film 4 is, and that Film 4 is more than just a TV channel. It's like just being like, oh, it's a bit like Warner Brothers. If Warner Brothers had a channel, like, you know, like having to explain that to people, having to explain who Sarah Gavron is, having to explain like things that might make a trained actor be like, okay, I know, from these things, I know what this is, and even if I don't know what it is, I know what type of thing this is. You have to really go from day dot and be like, this is like this. Then it's also about we were doing a lot of group auditions initially, which were just playing out as like drama classes almost. So we were making it feel something very familiar because they're young people at school, they have drama classes, so it was just doing a lot of stuff like that. But just in a sense of just making notes, you can see who has that quality that just draws your attention to them. You can see who has like sort of comedic presence. You see who can work very intuitively and improvise. But you can also then, as we got further along, we were testing them in different ways, or just in terms of like, if we're filming the audition, just you can see who can sort of not get distracted by someone being in the corner of a room and things like that, which start to help non-actors get prepped for being on set. And so yeah, just different little things like that, and just slowly seeing who rises to the occasion and who like sort of dwindles, and just even things like separating people. We initially saw people in their friendship groups, and that creates a certain type of confidence. And then when you start splitting people up, is the joker no longer jokey, or is the like shy person suddenly like, oh, no one's here, I'm gonna like, you don't know. So it's just it's a process of filtering, really.
So for any filmmaker that is looking at working with people who have a little bit less experience, was there anything that you found along that process which really helped, and you know, even with kids as well, that really helped to make people feel comfortable so that they could just encourage them to be themselves on camera?
I'd say it just takes a lot of care and kindness and effort, maybe going beyond what you naturally might want to do. Depending on what sort of filmmaker you are, you might actually be there, but it might be spending a lot of late nights, especially with young people. I spent a lot of late nights having like WhatsApp calls and like chats with like parents who had just finished work, who could only chat then, or like sending information via that instead of via like emails or something. You have to really adapt, and you can't always pick what is easy for you. So it might have been in my as I said, I love a good spreadsheet, and I love a bit of order. So maybe to make my job easier, it might have been easier if everyone did it submitted via email and I could just slide it all in. But it's not about me, it's about, okay, I'll have to do it via WhatsApp and like send an email to myself from my phone and then do it that way, just because you have to make it easier for the people who aren't used to this and who don't have that understanding or even that ability. So yeah.
And when it comes to booking them and contracts and helping people who have never worked in this space before to understand what it all means, like, was that something that you had to do in the casting team as well, like really have those in-depth conversations? Because I'm guessing none of them had agents apart from maybe Ruby Stokes. Or
yes, Ruby had an agent, and yeah, the others didn't in that sense. And so yeah, I think it was a team effort, because at that point, that's when it starts to hand over to production, and like they begin filming and stuff. So it was just a case of everyone taking care and bringing in parents and really sitting down and going through things in a way that you might not do if it's a traditional casting. So yeah, it's just being aware of maybe oversights that you might just think you never have to consider as a filmmaker. Just make sure that you have space for them, and it will be different on every project depending on every cast member, really.
Yeah, which leads me on really nicely to Bridge, which I listened to a podcast called Best Girl Grip, and the associate director was on there and mentioned you and Bridge, and it's such a really, I'm so surprised that it hasn't been some sort of element of this somewhere else before, which is how all the best ideas start, you know. But tell us a bit about Bridge in your own words, you know, why you set it up and what it's set to do.
Yeah, so Bridge came from Rox, basically. It came from this cast. So it's formed by a group of us. So it's myself and Lucy Pardee, who are the casting team. Then it's the writers, Claire Wilson, Teresa Coco. It's Anu Enriquez, the associate director, production assistant, Wada Mohammed, and Axa Hines, who we met through the casting period. She's head of participations at RADA, the drama school in London, and we had met her through the casting process, as she was one of the gatekeepers at she did a lot of youth participation work in different theatres and youth programs prior. So that's where we met her, and we all formed this collective Bridge, which was just to extend this aftercare, because I'm sure everyone's heard of these moments where potentially it could be a trained actor, it could be a newcomer who's been found, and like the industry does love finding like raw talent, and then they'll just drop them afterwards, or and it's because of all of that stuff I talked of at the start, where people who aren't in the industry need a little, not hand holding at all, but they just need that extra help to get them to the place where a trained person, or someone who's gone through the institutional routes, who is like knows this, knows that, knows this, can sort of go through with ease. So it was, yeah, just making sure that these wonderful girls had support. So we helped them get representation, which included like sort of taking them to agent meetings when if their parents weren't able or at work or so on, and then it's also helping them with auditions. We've done a film club over the lockdown where that was run by Anu and Sarah, where they would just sort of watch films every day and sort of critique that. And then we've also done events. They've had a lot of with connection with our partnership with Rather, they've done a lot of sort of activities and done sort of workshops with them, which has been really great. And they've also had like sort of lectures and chats with actual actors who are further along in their career, and yeah, and just even just like accent coaches and stuff. So it's just, it really depends. So the cast of Roxo is our first cohort, and we're expanding it into just helping the industry at large, but also helping these sort of newcomers in terms of, as you said at the start, it doesn't have to be a young person, it could be an older newcomer. And just so, yeah, there is no shame in leaving the industry and getting a normal job, but there is, I feel like there is something wrong when that's happened because of not being held and not being able to sort of get yourself on your feet. As I said earlier, even for myself, like as freelancers, the first few years are tumultuous and rough, and like, yeah, if you don't have that support and if you're not used to it, then yeah, so that's in its crux is what Bridge is. And you can follow us at We Are Bridge UK on Twitter and Facebook, or just wearebridgeuk.com for more information. But yeah, it's really exciting, and yeah, really proud of where they've got to already.
Yeah, it's amazing. So with them being your first cohort, then if anybody, you know, is in a situation watching now, or maybe a filmmaker is working with somebody that might need that support afterwards, how will it work in terms of will you guys like select the next cohort, or can people like apply for mentorship or something like that?
So we don't do mentorships or anything in that sense. You have to be on your first main casting credit, so in some sort of lead or supporting role. We are still at the early stages of it, so we're sort of forming and working out how it's going to be. So it's best to just follow on the things, and then we'll announce once we've like really worked it out. But we imagine sort of looking more industry facing, because that is more the effort. We can't help everyone, and it's teaching the industry some new habits which might be impeding people currently. So yeah, it will be sort of forward industry facing, looking at agencies and broadcasters and production companies, and seeing how we can assist them with talent that they come into contact with, which isn't necessarily just front of screen talent, it could be crew talent as well.
Amazing. Yeah. That's great. Okay, cool. We'll give a little reminder of all those links at the end. So just get a pen ready, guys, because I'll give you them at the end. Let's move on. So your other big project that you've been working on, or worked on rather, is Small Axe, the Steve McQueen TV show with Gary Davey.
Yeah,
right? Yeah. Gary Davey was the casting.
Yeah, he was casting on that. Yeah.
Wicked. So how
Yeah.
different was that to Rox? Like in terms of, because if Rox was like your first job, which is like just such a great introduction to the casting world. So how was it then going on to something like Small Acts, which is a bit more traditional?
It was interesting. It was an interesting transition. Rox was so different to how maybe filmmaking usually is. It set a precedence for me of how I wanted to conduct myself, how I wanted to sort of have that care going through. And so yeah, joining like Gary's team for the entire iteration of that was really good. I joined just after Mangrove, so didn't get to. I sort of got the tail end of Mangrove, but the other 4 films I got to work on, and they were just it was just really wonderful, and that's why I said that there's that slight difference I noticed between an actor who is a bit more who is aware that they want to become an actor straight away, or has the confidence to already be on that path. Because with the girls from Rox, it's not that they aren't actors per se, and with a lot of street casting, it's not that we're finding non-actors. Some of them will never want to act again, but that's usually people who have, oh, it's not for me, or they haven't considered it fully. Whereas working on Small Acts, I was coming into contact with really seasoned, trained actors who had made that choice, that active choice, and most of them are represented. But we did get a little bit of street casting in there, which was fun as well, which was nice. But yeah, it was really interesting to see that different dynamic, and also it was TV, which just moves so fast as well. And just a different speed.
Yeah, right, exactly. How long were you working on Rox? I don't know if you mentioned earlier.
It was on Rox for about 1.5 years, I believe. It was a bit of a long. It stopped and started as we like moved on, as I'm sure all of us know here as filmmakers in some sense, that projects stop and start as people just need time to read things or watch things, or like, I don't know, you got producers or so on. Everyone, it stops and starts. But yeah, it took about 1.5 year and a bit.
Well, that's a chunk. So tell us a bit about what you're working on at the moment, and how, like, has COVID completely stopped your casting process, or are you doing everything digital?
It's well, at the moment I'm not working on the casting stage of anything, so I'm casting this a new project that's going to be up in Leeds with Channel 4, but at the moment we're at the research stage. So we've moved that social online, so we were going to go and do more of a like searchy vibe, but then lockdown came and we had to sort of pivot, so that went completely online, which wasn't too bad. It can get a bit strenuous being on like Zoom all day, but I was doing that with Lucy for that section, and that was really quite fun. You just make people feel at ease. Everyone's in the same hole, all locked up and stuff. So it was helpful, but I feel like we missed the chance to sort of be in the room, and that's what I really love about sort of the street casting way that me and Lucy go about things, is that you can go in the room and you can like really connect, and you can really watch people, and you can really go up to that person who would never come forward and be like, no, I want to see you to come, and like that connection. Whereas so we were at the sort of mercy of just finding gatekeepers who would trust us without even meeting us, because then that's also, especially in like community centres or schools or sports centres or wherever, even just meeting the person who like really trusts and protects whoever you're trying to get to, even them just meeting you is a thing. It's really hard to do over email. Or even phone, and plus everyone is in different furloughed situations. Well, at least in the UK here, during peak lockdown, some people were on limited staff, some people were unwell. So it was really, you were contacting people, but people were stressed, so you weren't getting as much feedback as well. So that was difficult in that sense. But yeah, did manage to do a little bit of in person, really socially distanced, then once we'd selected some people, which was really fortunate and nice, and I think they appreciated it as well, being in the room. But yeah, it feels like most of it's going to have to be online. But yeah, you just got to make it as fun as possible.
Yeah, exactly. Is that young people as well, did you say?
Yeah, that's young people as well, and like young adults. Yeah, so slightly elderly. Yeah, Leeds based.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So I'm going to move over to some questions. So I'll try and get through them as much as I can. So here's a few from that were sent to me beforehand. So thank you everyone who sent those over. Jasmina Tang asked, for actors from underrepresented communities with limited resources, what's your biggest piece of advice for getting into the room and making a good impression? That's a big question.
Yeah, it is a big question, and it depends on what room it is. If it's a traditional room, I'd say don't feel like you have to perform. Don't feel like you have to show, oh, look at me, this is my heritage and this is big. Just go in there and just speak on a normal level. Just casting directors, they want the best for you. It's never a bad thing. We want to see you win. We want to see everyone that comes into that room to win, and it's more a case of just working out who fits best, or who fits best with that other person who we're going with. And like, it's like a puzzle piece. And so yeah, just think of it like, even once you get into the room, or we all tend to have really elephant type memories, and so you might not hear back from us, but like maybe 5 years down the line, they'll be like, what about Jess? And then we'll come back to you. And I think that's across the board, regardless of thing. I'm sure you can say this as well, Hannah. Like it is like that. Yeah. So I'd say just be yourself. Don't feel like you have to perform and you have to thing. And if you feel like it needs that and it requires that, then maybe, and you're uncomfortable by that, maybe that's not the room that you should be in, and maybe that's not the role you should take. So,
yeah, very good. Do you know something that I mentioned to you before that I saw Rox last year at London Film Festival, before I've gone on my binge on Netflix and in the cinema this year. And I saw there was a panel which was absolutely lush afterwards with all the girls, the main cast, and Teresa, one of the writers, and Sarah Gavron, and a few other people. And there was audience questions, and somebody asked the question, this is like a really diverse cast, like how difficult was it for you to, or what steps did you take in order to consciously make the effort to make this a diverse cast? And Teresa was like, no, this is just what London looks like. Like, we were looking in schools and this is what the schools look like in London. It wasn't like there was a conscious effort to go, right, we need to make sure this is as diverse as possible, but it is diverse here. Yeah. So I absolutely, that really stuck with me when she said that. It's very true. Jordan O'Connell has asked, how do you feel about monologues in demo reels and show reels?
I don't mind them if that's what you have. If you don't have many like screen footage that you can work with, if you're very at the start of your career, that's completely fine. Like pick something that you resonate with, pick something that you find enjoyable. Don't just feel like you have to do Shakespeare if that's not you. Like pick something that says something about you, and that will show in your delivery. There's nothing wrong with them.
Cool. Rebecca Burnett has asked, what is your advice for someone whose child wants to start a career in acting for television and or films?
Wow. Well, I'd say get into like a little Saturday school drama situation. And yeah, they can sort of start to build their confidence and learn skills, and it's fun, and they can see if they really enjoy it. A lot of those sort of drama, did I say dance by accident? I'm sorry. If they have a little my mum used to have a dance because I've always like default to like dance a drama Saturday school. Then you can sort of do things, you can sort of, some of them have agencies attached to them, and even if they don't have agencies attached to them, casting directors, like I sort of look at and speak to them like, oh, can we sit in, do you have any kids who might be up for this? So that is a good spot to do, to sort of start with. Don't feel like you need to rush and find an agent straight away. I think that's, and if you are looking for an agent for your child, which I wouldn't say to do until maybe much later on, I'd say just maybe look at if they represent other children, what those children are in, if that suits your needs and the needs of your child, and yeah, just be safe. And you're a parent, so I'm sure you'll have that instinct anyway. But yeah,
it's like gentle encouragement. You never want to push the kids into anything, and when you're auditioning kids, that those things do stand out a lot of the time. So just gentle encouragement, and they'll find their own way in there. And then once that they're in it and you can see that they've really got a passion for it, at that point then you might want to start moving things.
I think that's definitely good advice.
Support and encouragement, but no pushing. David Davidson has asked, what makes a good acting CV? So if you look at like online profiles or acting CVs, what are any small things that people can be thinking about to add on there to help their overall?
Well, I don't know if I'm the best to answer this, because it's not the initial thing that I will look for when I'm sort of doing the small street cast, community-based casting that I'm sort of comfortable in. For me, it's more about just seeing if someone's got the right face or the right like something about them, and then seeing if they can hold up to it. I'd think, don't overthink your CV. If you want to put in everything, you can. If you want to show range, if you are sort of maybe looking to do voiceover stuff, you can maybe scale it back and have different CVs for different things, so you don't overwhelm people. I'd say keep it slimline as possible. That can be quite helpful when, like, if you're sending it out cold to people. I remember sort of being in sort of Gary's office and just getting a lot of stuff, and it was the stuff that was a bit more tailored, felt honest, and it made you want to sort of look into it, and make sure it's relevant as well. So you can go onto a lot of our casting directors websites, or even on IMDb, and you can see what people are working on, what they've worked on before, and sort of approach with like, okay, I see you're doing this period drama. I'd really be interested. Here is thing, and tailor it to that. I think that's what I'd say.
Good advice, definitely. So Randy Bruce has asked, when casting a film, do casting directors take into consideration the fact of somebody's location? So if you were, say, when you were working with Gary on Small Acts, were you looking at where people were based for a project like that before you considered them?
It really depends. Like that, it depends on the production. Like it depends on the production budget. I'm now saying pretends. It depends on like what the production needs. So like with Rox, we only looked in North and East London because we knew we were shooting in East, and we didn't want these young people having to travel very far, and so it had to be in North and East London. So yeah, just so they weren't traveling anywhere too out the thing if there was an early morning start and so on. So then, yeah, if it's an early morning start and then they live West London in Uxbridge, then they have to wake up at like 4 a.m. or something. That will affect them when they get on set. So things like that. So yeah, with small acts, I think we were shooting in specific places, so it didn't necessarily have to be where the locations were, but it was like, where will you be, where can you be, can you sort of find, yeah. And on most sort of projects it will be like that. It will be, if you can have a base somewhere, you can, if they can open it up to you, and they will. And it's also swings and roundabouts, because like if there is someone who is wonderful, we'll find a way to make it work. We will find a way to make it work. But it really depends.
I think as well, like on a casting brief, if you need to specifically be based within London, or if you need to be in Wales, or like whatever it is, it will say that most of the time on the breakdown that you have to either have a base there or that you have to be based there, if that is a really important part of the production and you getting involved and auditioning. So just make sure you're always reading the brief before you apply to anything. And you know, if you've got a question around that, then you can totally ask it. That's absolutely fine. Brandon McKerney has asked, what are your top priorities as a casting director? Like, what are your values?
Top priorities? Oh, that's an interesting one. I'd say I think my priorities is just to make sure that I am finding people that giving people opportunities. I think that's probably the thing that drives me forward in everything I'm doing. I like to sort of look beyond maybe what might seem fancy in terms of like, if you're at one of the big agencies, like, yeah, that's cool, but like maybe there is someone at a smaller agency who hasn't had the chance, or maybe there's someone on thing, or maybe there's someone who might be in a random place, which is where I like to go looking on the rocks and stuff. So I think I'm driven by just opening this pool of opportunities to as many people as possible, and like distributing wealth and like things like that. So yeah, really good. Sarah Thompson has asked, does Bridge mainly focus on people based in and around London, or will you be looking regional? This person is based in Scotland, so that's what she's asking. Okay. So it won't, at the moment it is London based, because the first cohort is Rox, and the Rox cast are London based. It will sort of, as we sort of interact with new projects, so like project in Leeds, we will incorporate them, so that will be more northern, and then you go up to sort of, there will be projects that might be in Scotland as well. So it's nucleus, so that's why it feels London centric, because a lot of us are London. The film is a London film. It was filmed in London. A lot of the creatives are from London, and so that's why it feels like that. But we have every intention to sort of go where and adapt to what these projects that sort of come towards us that need help and assistance in that way might be. So maybe.
Wicked. Jessica Bork has asked, have you got any advice for online auditions? So for actors, any advice for them on how they can help their chances?
Online auditions, I'd say, just make sure you're well lit. Get yourself a little like phone tripod, like one of these. You can get those really cheap. And I'd say, just the same things you do for a self-tape, just really make sure you're in a comfortable spot. And I guess I haven't done any proper auditions in that way. So I'm not sure if there's any challenges that I'm got blind spots to at the moment, but yeah, I'd say, yeah, just treat it like a really good self-tape, and just, yeah, try and go roll with the punches in terms of glitches, because there might be some.
Oh yes, make sure you've got good internet. Brandon's got another question. So tell us a time when you were particularly impressed by an audition. Do you have any good examples?
I could go to D'Angelo from Rox. He was, so we had we'd seen a lot of young boys, and we were absolutely trained. And he came in, like, there was I was doing an improv scene with some of the young boys where I was this really stressed mother on a bus, and they had to like annoy me. And he just was the complete opposite. Like he did some meditation that he'd been learning at school about mindfulness and stuff, and he did that to Anu was in that audition with Lucy, and they came out and they were like, that little boy just gave us a mindfulness session. So yeah, that was really like, he just appeared out of nowhere, and just offered, like, and that's credit to his mum, Lynette, who is just a wonderful woman, just really harboring his creativity in that way. So yeah, that was a pretty good one.
Oh God, he's so amazing. Do you know, like, so is he part of Bridge? Is he going on to work in other projects now, or was that it for him?
Yeah, he's started sort of looking at drama club sort of classes. He's got an agent, so he's been represented now. But yeah, it's also just taking his time with it, because he is still young. He's about 9 now. And so yeah, it's one of those things where he's in a really lucky position where he has a credit, and so yeah, if he need, and he's young, so if he needs to take a few years out and decides I don't want to do it, and then gets to 15 and says actually I want to do it, like he's been set up now. So that's one thing that we're happy with Bridge, that yeah, so now if he does, he has an agent, so he can stop for like 3 years if he wants to. Or huh? He's with Christine Shepherd at Aftercare. So
good for him.
good hands. Good hands.
So I just wanted to finish by just asking another question about him, because I love him. So did he, were his scenes improvised, or like what element of the film was improvised?
So I'd say majority of the dialogue was improvised. So the script had sort of dialogue cues in it, but it was much more, it left a lot of breathing space for the young people to say things how they would say. So it was like there was beats that they would need to hit, but it would be, how would you go about this, and what feels comfortable to you, and so yeah, in that's what created that really really like realistic tone. And it was just adding things like all of the teachers were street cast, they were actual teachers, the receptionist was actual receptionist, just to create that honesty. So then there were adults, all the other actors were seasoned actors, but we were looking for actors who felt comfortable in that improvisation space, because even if you're a really seasoned actor, you might be much more comfortable with script work, which is completely fine. But like if you've got a young person in your scene who's just throwing things at you, you need to be able to respond. So yeah, that was one of the cornerstones of everyone in the cast.
Yeah, it was brilliant. That was another question that I should have asked. It's something that I really noticed the last time I watched it. It was like, they're really teachers. Like you can tell that they're teachers.
Just in the same way, like it's really hard to capture like current slang if you are not currently in that space to write it. You will fall on your face sometimes. It's the same with teacher speak. It's just easier, and also teachers know how to handle loads of children at once, which was great for being on set as well. So it was just little things like that just help add to more than just the authenticity. It helped adds to the production.
Yeah, amazing. I have one more question. Sorry. The girl, I can't remember her name now, but the girl from Nottingham, was she someone that was found in the schools? Yes. Was she someone that was found in the schools as well, or was she a separate casting process?
She was from, yeah, we found her in Nottingham. Lucy went up there and had like some connections from previously, and so sort of the drama group that she's sort of part of, we knew all of them, and they sort of brought Sinead to the front, and she just blossomed. She came down to London and joined in with the workshops, with the rest of the girls, and yeah, it was just really interesting to just see it all, everyone slot into place in that way. So
was she with TV Workshop in Nottingham?
Yes, TV Workshop. I always getting mixed up the name. I'm like TV group. Like yeah, she was at TV Workshop and she's still there.
Amazing. They're so good.
They are.
Oh, well, thank you so much for that. It was so interesting to hear about the whole process. And if anybody, if I haven't sold the film to you by now, my God, then you're not going to be sold. Please go watch it. It's on Netflix. If you're in the is it on Netflix in the US, or is it just the UK?
Unfortunately not. So I have no update on that, but it's on Netflix at the moment, in English speaking Netflix, in Europe, but also I think it's supposed to be coming to English speaking Africa at some point. And I know in cinemas it's playing in France and in Holland, I believe, and there might be another European country. If you're in the UK, you can go Rock.Film and find your local independent cinema. Please go and watch it there, because it's really socially distanced and they need money. But if not, then go and watch it on Netflix. And sorry to everyone else, at the moment it's not available anywhere else, but it should be. Fingers crossed.
Yeah, at some point, it's such an amazing piece of cinema. So, yeah, I mean, thanks for that, and thanks for today. It's been amazing.
Thank you for having me. It was really fun.
Wicked. A couple of reminders then. So, remind us of all your handles. So, Bridge and yourself.
So yeah, I'm Jessica Straker at. No, that doesn't. I'm on at Jessica Straker. And yeah, you can follow me there. I don't tweet that much, as I said. Like I've gone through the social media, like I've come out the end and I'm tired. But I will post on there sometimes. And Bridge, you can find us at wearebridgeuk.com. And we'll have more information. Like we're still, as I said, at the nucleus of it, but yeah, hold tight for details on that. Yeah,
amazing. Give her a follow, give them a follow, definitely. You can follow Backstage at Backstage on Twitter. I am at Hannah Caston on Twitter, and if you want to follow Backstage on Instagram, all of the updates on all of the slate we've got coming up is on at Backstage Cast. Obviously check out backstage.com. Loads of jobs get posted through there all the time in the UK, US, all across Europe and Australia and everywhere basically. So keep an eye on all the castings there, and yeah, thank you for joining us, and thank you, Jessica, and we'll speak to you soon.
Yeah, bye.
Cheers everyone, bye.